Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. Okay, so this is a very specific message that's coming through. I'm seeing a very specific scene unfolding in my mind's eye. I feel like for most of you that this message is for, this scene may have happened in some actual way in real life, but for others of you this might be a metaphor for what went on here in your situation, so take that however it resonates. But in this vision I am walking through a house party, and I feel like my perspective in this vision is your perspective. It's like the role that you were playing here, but again, take this however it resonates. So I'm walking through a house party and everything's fine, but I open a door to a room. It feels like a bedroom, but it's like a small intimate room that's kind of, maybe tucked away off to the side or something. And I'm very surprised to see two people in this room alone together with the door closed. It feels like I didn't walk in on anything explicit or anything. I'm just surprised because these two people, like what I know of them, the relationship they have, I am hearing Gemini. And again, this is at a house party, but I feel like that is the bond that's kind of joining all of us together, or at least that's, what I thought it was. And Gemini does represent a lot of different things, but in this scenario, for most of you, I'm picking up on like the friends element. Like you could have a friend group here. Gemini also rules over people that you see on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a very routine basis, like you just see these people around. It's people that you're in conversation with, friends, siblings. It also rules over children, so children could be involved in this situation. You may have children with some of these people or something, but that's all I know here of these people. And it does feel like I discovered something here. My intuition is really going off seeing these particular two people in this room alone together, because again, these are friends maybe, yes, but they don't have the kind of relationship that they would be intimate or alone together, or maybe even have each other's phone numbers or anything like that. So it's odd, and it feels to me like I've maybe discovered a two-facedness maybe to both of these people and to their relationship here together. But my intuition is really going off. But I feel like the conversation takes some kind of like superficial turn where it feels to you like maybe they're trying to dismiss it or throw things off of the scent. I don't know. But that's the situation here that I am picking up on. And I do feel like this involves some level of indiscretion or cheating. This could have been how a relationship dissolved or a relationship ended, because I just heard hindsight is 2020. So maybe some of you are kind of, when you are replaying certain events in your mind, you go back to this moment. That was the moment I knew. I just heard and again, it's this strong intuitive feeling that something is off here with these two people, and that it's not something that you should kind of overlook or sweep under the rug. But again, I feel like you've got a lot of reason to want to do that on a psychological level, because again, maybe there are children involved, or you feel like these people are your friends. And I feel like there's this question as to why Spirit is wanting to explore the undercurrent of what has gone on here in this situation. And I'm hearing, so this would be a third party situation, what I'm picking up on here. And I feel like you were the person that was transgressed against by both of these people. It feels like their infidelity or something hurt you. Again, take this however it resonates. But I feel like what I'm hearing is, in a third party situation, when you're trying to understand it and your part in it and other people's parts in it and the feelings that are involved and everything that kind of culminated into this particular moment, there's a real desire to understand that lens of why and what, and through the differences, through examining the differences between you and this other person, your traits, what you have to offer, the feelings involved, all of that. Spirit is saying you've been trying to understand the situation through the differences, but Spirit wants to pause and look at this situation actually through the lens of similarities, because I feel like all three of these people in the room, they do have differences. I feel like you're aware of the differences, differences in personality, in terms of maybe job, in terms of maybe how much money they make, levels of attractiveness, all those weird demographic things that kind of we sort ourselves out into categories. And I think you've been focused on those, but every single person in this room was raised somewhat similarly. And I do feel like there's a cultural component to this. So you may have a shared culture, and I'm feeling this is strongly Western culture, or being strongly influenced by Western culture here. But there is a link to the everyday routines which of course would play out at school and with friends and all of that, you know, on TV, those cultural values, but also something to do here with families, again, in different ways. And what I'm seeing a strong like Virgo energy, but I'm seeing a house, this is like a middle class house, you know, if not upper middle class. It's in the suburbs. Everything seems to be just in its place, and everything is like structured a certain way, and it just kind of looks perfect, again, by some kind of family, traditional, or cultural standard. And I keep hearing that word Virgo, you know, and Virgo rules over skillfulness and it rules over routine. And I feel like that's what each of these people were taught to want. Again, like by their culture, that was some kind of pinnacle. And I don't think that they were invited to explore whether or not that was appropriate for them, or if that's how they would feel fulfilled. There's more, if you achieve this, you will feel fulfilled. You will be happy. You will gain respect in the eyes of, you know, your father and your family and your mother and your community and people around you. It's this house situation, this house in the suburbs, 2.5 kids, golden retriever in the front yard, white picket fence, the whole shebang. And I think some of these people maybe did grow up with that, or saw that, or they were just, for some of them, they grew up without that and they thought that was the void that they were missing. And if they just had that, then they would be happy and they would know what everybody was talking about and things would just all click into place, right? But beneath this house structure that I'm seeing like, you remember the movie Titanic, and the very bottom of the ship, there was all those like sweaty guys throwing the coal into like those giant ovens, and it was just like fiery and like all of that. I'm seeing that is the reality beneath the house that they are not seeing. And it's subterranean. It's like below the earth's surface is this kind of like coal plant. And then again, the house looks all put together on top of it. So this is, I think, a metaphor for what each of these people have been taught to want and go after. Like the reality of it that they're not seeing is that base of this like strong fire energy, which is a kind of competitiveness. There might be an anger or a volatility. It's Mars energy, fiery energy. Mars rules over war. It rules over competition. So this is this house thing, and the values that they were shown or taught, it is rooted in competition. And there's a volatility here to that. But that competitive energy, in order for this to come off like it's desirable and that they have everything and they have everything that they ever wanted, that can't be seen by the outside world, because then you're not seen as respectful. You're not, you don't get the happiness, all of that. So it has to be kind of buried. And I feel like there's a component of this that's out in the real world with this actual house, actual family. It's more competitive and more volatile than these people kind of let on. I'll talk about that here in a second. But also within each of the people in this room, that's a current setup within them. They were taught to kind of like suppress or cover that their competitive nature with that Virgo energy, politeness, routine, again, like maybe skillfulness, a job. So these people have basically been taught by our culture and then reinforced by family and rhetoric in the friend group to funnel their competitive energy into this dream. This is how they compete. So this is a function of their competitiveness. It's not a function of their values. This is the way these people are relating to this. It's like this need in order to be happy. It's a middleman. We talk a lot about that on the channel. The goal is no longer to be whole and to feel, you know, happy and to really explore what that is. The goal is, if it's a middleman, if I get this, then I will get that. It's this if-then statement. It's a hypothesis, but it's not seen as a hypothesis for each of these people. It's seen as cultural fact. It's seen as family dogma. It's seen as a must. So each of these people will do whatever it is that they have to do to achieve that for themselves, which is that competitive nature, which all of a sudden you're starting to see their social relationships. So again, I think some of you have children with somebody here. We'll talk about that in just a second. And their friendships. Now, this is no longer a healthy social fabric that you would assume that it is looking from the outside, right? Because there's no selflessness in it. There's no, sometimes I override my own needs in order to meet your needs. Unless they're doing that, again, to be competitive and to place themselves in a certain light socially. or near certain people socially to be advantageous. This all goes on, again, beneath the surface. It's subterranean. And in their mind, it goes on very subconsciously. So now you don't actually have the real ingredients, which is compassion and selflessness and values and morals and self-discipline, in order to actually build and maintain healthy social fabric, whether that is in a relationship with another person, whether that's family, whether that's the friend group, the community structures. You don't actually have that because you've got people here, at least some of these people, because although everybody's been indoctrinated into that particular mindset, it's taken hold to varying degrees. And again, we'll talk about that here in just a second. That does have to do with the differences here of each of these people. But all of this is competitiveness. And I'm hearing roles. Like, so the social roles, okay, in that house structure that they're seeing in their mind or that they did grow up with. So each of the people in that family dynamic that they grew up in, this is kind of coming across as a toxic family dynamic, but it's very stable because it is built on need. What these people are all seeing in their mind, or what they've thought they've seen, even if they didn't have that in their home, they could have seen families on TV or families in their neighborhood. What they thought they were seeing, they didn't actually have the peek behind closed doors the way that they thought they did. So they thought that they were seeing, one thing, but they were actually seeing another, and it's this competitive mindset. But I don't think it was readily seen because the way in which each of these people compete that are in this family unit that was brought together by need, but I just heard need and greed being switched like interchangeably, because this need really is a need. It's like need for excess or extras, like the need to be seen as a pinnacle or something, because these people kind of feel like they won't be okay, or at least that's the narrative. Even if they don't buy into it, they wouldn't necessarily know that at the time that all this was going on, because I don't think they've explored their inner world. They were too busy on this external quest, for fame or fortune, or for this house scenario that they feel their happiness hinges on, right? So they're in this very competitive mindset. There's no light shed internally, and it's coming out of this like desperation and this need, which is what this family dynamic was built on in the first place, whatever they're relating to. But each of these people compete differently based on their role. Okay, so like if you've got a mother, right, that the person filling that mother role, if she has this competitive spirit, the way that I'm describing here, she's going to compete through that like feminine motherly energy. And we don't usually associate those traits with competitiveness, like the nurturing and making a meal or something like that. But the way that this family is doing it, because they want prestige, because they, as a hinge point to their own well-being and happiness, which is a lie, but I think these people have to kind of unpack that the hard way, and this scenario is probably a part of that. That is that person competing, right? And the father would compete through, job and skillfulness and routine and, whatever. And even the kids, it's like everybody has their role. And in order for them to be truly competitive in a holistic, well-rounded way, they have to factor in their role and the context, and then live up to that role. Now that's important because this is a family and this is a worldview that prioritizes roles over individuals, which means that there's probably a feeling of a certain amount of emotional abandonment, or not being seen, or not being loved, or not being cared about, that's gone on within them in their early life, because they were expected to be a part of their roles. And this goes back to this Virgo energy, this unhealthy Virgo energy, because Virgo energy is beautiful energy and it can be very healthy and well adjusted, just like every energy in the zodiac. But this unhealthy Virgo energy that was going on in this environment, because they want to live up to some external standard, this has masqueraded as a way of life and a type of parenting. And it's actually very rudimentary. It's actually very superficial and not hard at all, because all these people are doing is they know their roles inside and out, because their bread and butter depends on knowing their roles, right? So what they do is they examine themselves and they examine their kids. And when somebody steps out of alignment with that pre-prescribed role, they just get on them. They get on them in a very critical, nitpicky, detail-oriented fashion, which again contributes to that feeling of I'm not enough. Now, I'm not saying like you should never correct your kids. You should, but in what spirit and to what end? Because this I'm contrasting this to what I would consider a healthy parenting model, which is you are an individual, this new child that I've birthed into the world, and you have your own unique traits and talents. You're going to naturally be inclined towards certain things that you like doing. You're going to have natural talents for certain things. You're going to have weaknesses in other things. And yes, we need to make sure that you're a well-rounded person. That's the parent's job, to assist them, and they have to learn how that child learns and in what time, and those kinds of things. But the parent also knows the world. The parent knows our culture and the environment that the child will eventually need to function in. So how do you help this particular child that is a unique individual function and get their needs met in society? So the only way that these people can think how to do that is to stuff this child into a role. And there is this kind of feeling of, if you are not this role, then you will not succeed, and you are going to be homeless, and you are going to be, and there's certain things that you have to do in society. We can't beat around the bush about that. But there's different ways of going about meeting those needs. And it should be functional, and it should be process oriented, and it should be how can you kind of feel yourself out in this situation? But instead, it's just this strict adherence to the roles. So if a child speaks out of turn or whatever, according to the image that they feel they're supposed to be presenting, because this family trades on image. These people trade on image. There's not a concept, not a true integrated concept, because these people, this is the kind of people who do weaponized therapy speak, because they do say these words because it's fashionable. And again, because it positions them in a certain social light, but there's no connectedness to the inner realm. And if you have that connectedness turned on, if you really do live those values, that's going to stand out to you. And you can probably see clear as day that these are people that, no, they just leverage what's fashionable and acceptable in social circles and society at large in order to trade on status and trade on image. And it's a deeply unsatisfying way of living. And it's also a very shallow foundation through which to build your life and your relationships upon. It still feels very strong because it is the lust energy, again, coming from Mars. Because Mars is a lot of things, and again, it's a beautiful, necessary energy in our lives to get in the right place and in the right quantity and to keep in balance with all the other, energies that we're just very naturally engaging with at all times. But it doesn't rule over love. Mars does not rule over love. Okay. And I feel like lust can come from Mars. And lust to me is something that encompasses a lot of different energies. It's greed, it's selfishness, it's desire, it's all of those things wrapped up into one. So it's a very potent, very heady, very fixating emotion. And I feel like that's what these family dynamics are, because it's like they see in another person something that they don't have, and they don't feel like they can get from themselves, and something that they want. And that's where I want to get back to this third party situation that we're picking up on here, because each of these people has this different way that they are relating to it. Now I want to start with you, because I feel like you're going to walk away from this. I'm watching you turn around, exit the room, walk out of the room, and fresh air just hits your nostrils. I'm seeing you out, I'm actually picturing you on a ship. This is a cargo ship, but there's people on it. So I feel like that's a metaphor here of just shipping cargo, shipping. This is a transition maybe period or phase in your life. And it may have to do with transitioning out of a certain soul group even that you've kind of outgrown. But as you exit that room where the energy was really heady and it was very confusing, and there was maybe a fantasy that you were buying into, this fantasy that I've described in detail now, this kind of false ethos, this false worldview, this false doctrine, this false promise of happiness through superficial means, you exit that room and it's nighttime, the air is crisp and cold, and it hits your nostrils, and it's shocking, but it's refreshing at the same time. And it all of a sudden just kind of clears up the delusion that you were in. And I feel like you are going to go on to explore from a more sober mindset. And there is a whole world that is waiting for you to connect with it and to find your place in it. But you had to wake up to this delusion. You had to educate yourself about this. It's kind of like being plunged in cold water. Just wake up, snap out of it, before you could really move on. And I think you have to leave these two people and other people to wake up in their own time. They have to live their own delusion. They have to fight with each other. They have to realize that they have a very low superficial connection. They don't know that because, like I said, this is all built on lust, but these people don't know love because they're not, and that's harsh. I'm not saying that these people they do know love, I'm certain, in some capacities. They're just that they don't build on love. That's what I mean. So it's like when they see something that they want for themselves and that plugs into this, I have to have this in order to be okay, in order to get what I feel like I need in life, then they become very fixated on it. It feels like the missing puzzle piece. It feels like the thing that they have to get. So it leads to an incredible amount of self-delusion and blocked off from reality, fantastical thinking, and justification. These people will justify, again, Mars behavior, selfish, maybe schmegdual, competitive, warlike behaviors, strategic behaviors in order to achieve this like goal that they want here. Now this is going to crash and burn because it's just not built on values. Now we'll talk about that in a second because I want to finish what I was saying about you. I feel like there is a vibe here that we've got one person, you share a gender with one of these people in the room, right? And so this is going to kind of shape up differently, but one of these people here, they build marriage, family, children, those kinds of things. This Virgo energy that we were talking about, that all those things like, right, relationship, all of that should be built on Venus, right? That's the realm of Venus. Venus is values. Values are your guiding lights. If you are in touch with your inner values, not this weird this culture tells you have to have this, and if you don't have it, you will not be happy. That's not the same thing as having personal values, right? So you need to have personal values that are your guiding lights. You need to be connected with them, and those help you to navigate and they help you make your decisions. So these people don't have that concept of values and self-discipline and like morals and understanding like what is just, you don't value being this kind of person. So even if you're in a situation, right, for instance, for me, like I just personally, I have a value of like not cheating on people and being forthright and upfront. I just value being that kind of person. I value the social fabric of the people around me and their connections that they're building. So if my forever person is in, like, if I feel like, oh, I met this person and I feel like they're my forever person, but they're already married, it's just a no-go for me because God would never do that to me. Because God knows my heart and God knows my values, and God is using my values to assist me in navigating my life the way that it needs to. I just trust that so much. I feel like these people really do not have that trust, either in God. I know not everybody believes in God, but in some kind of higher good. You know, they just, it's their own kind of selfishness and their own strategy. If I don't get this, I'm not going to be okay. This is my only shot at this. Instead of, this doesn't match my values, it's not for me. And that's okay. And I'm thank you for the clear as day signpost. I'm going to be moving on down the road and I'm going to find what is for me. Thank you for making this so clear, right? It's that kind of energy. So we've got a person in here, again, if not multiple people, but there is at least one person here who I think builds things that should be the realm of Venus, relationships, which then you build families and, all of that stuff, a life that you value. They build that on Mars. They use schmegdual energy, I think, I'm literally hearing baby trap. And I think somebody here may have been baby trapped. And that could have been you. And because I think that there is some kind of, this person likes to trap people with our values, the things that this Virgo energy, this house energy, right? The things that our society looks at and says, those people are mature, those people have it all, those people are stable, those people are to be looked up to. But this person doesn't go about it like by the correct means. So they build these like and it's just because it's a shortcut to this person, right? And I think, so they may have trapped you in some way, and you might have not seen that as that energy. You might have thought it was legitimately like an accident or something. And all this, I do think there's quite a bit of this. This is very subconscious, but it is like a strong, powerful drive in this person, and they could get out in front of it, right? But they just don't, because they kind of want these certain things to happen, if that makes sense. So they get your hooks in, and then they want to kind of rewrite history. That's what this person does. They rewrite history, and this has to do with Venus energy again, choice. They have to rewrite history to make it seem like you chose them to build a family with, when in reality, there was an oops-a-daisy, and then you were trying to do the right thing. Because the reality between this person and whoever it is that they've either put together a marriage with or whatever, is that these two people would not have chosen to go down that path together if there wasn't some kind of strategic, Martian, selfish energy, lustful, I want this, but if I'm really honest with myself, I don't feel like this wants me back. So I have to stack the odds in my favor. Even if you do feel like you chose this person, it's because they tried to stack the deck against you, and they tried to like make you see them in a certain light that naturally, if things had been built slowly and with the inner light on and with consideration of everybody involved, including any children, having a selfless attitude towards those children, things would not have unfolded this way. So I do feel like there's a person here like this that builds things that should be in the realm of Venus through the lens of Mars. And they conflate the two, and they keep themselves in a state of delusion about that because it serves them. It serves their agenda. It's hard for this person. I think there's a deep insecurity in this person, because I think they would have to face that maybe some of the things that they feel that they want, that's ultimately not for their highest and greatest good. Because remember, I said this person doesn't really have a faith in God, or a faith in that they are also loved by God and they will get where they are supposed to go, and that would be a better path for them than anything that their ego could try to hodgepodge together in this particular way. They don't have a worldview about that. Now, this person may actually speak about God, but they're not talking about the same one that you and I are. This person makes their ego their God, but they don't know that they do that because there's just no inner light shed. So this is the person I think somehow you potentially have gotten involved with, and you didn't see that because you're kind of split on the issue. I think you are a person who has healthy Venus energy. And I think that's why you were targeted by this person to begin with, is you were seen as a person who was like going places and had a lot of value and had a lot to offer. And some of you don't see yourself in that energy. Like you just didn't think that you had you didn't think anybody would try to trap you this way. You can't fathom it because I think that you're trying to build yourself and your life and your success, again, like in this way that I'm describing. So you need to see yourself as having really something of value that this person wants. And we'll talk about what that is here in just a second. But I think when this person, quote unquote, chose you, they targeted you, then you maybe felt like, well, this isn't ideal, but I have these values of, maybe having like a marriage and a family and everything. So we're going to go for it. And then you felt like, well, I'm just lucky that we do have certain things. And that's what you thought, I just feel lucky that we do have a certain amount of compatibility, or that we both are willing to do this, willing to do the marriage thing because, oh, look, we share similar values. No, you don't. And it's through this person's actions that you can see that. When this person says marriage and family and we should value those things, they use it as a mechanism of control. They do. And you don't see it that way. You come from a much more selfless lens and you want to be selfless towards these things. And I think you'll look back and realize you really were the only person bringing a sense of selflessness here. But this person did a good job of being selfish, but acting like that's not what they were doing, right? So you are kind of realizing that this actually did not live up to your values. And I think you thought, oh, well, I'm just glad that we have the Mars stuff between us too. Like, isn't that lucky? But this person, okay, so there's another person here. Now, these two people that are cheating, I feel like, again, this is built on some kind of lack because there's some person here who feels like they can get schmegdual stuff, like with people that they like and with people that they want and everything. But I think they feel that they can't get the house and like the money and the nice house in the suburbs. Like the money stuff kind of eludes them. And the status stuff like eludes them. They couldn't build what you and this other person have like on their own. They couldn't do it. But they could do the schmeg stuff. And I feel like they see this other person, because of what they've built with you, as their meal ticket, like as a shortcut. Again, there's lots of shortcuts energies here with Mars. So there's a strategy here to pair up with this person in order to gain access to what it feels like they are lacking. There's another person here who has reaped the benefits of Venus and of your potentially, like your selflessness, your value, your desire to kind of build, to actually build here. And I think it's created some level of value within this like partnership or whatever, or it promises to. And this person has somehow gained or benefited from that. And now this person, because they're, these people are very like competitive, right? So they want, again, the house and the stability and the fruits of those Venusian things, but they also want to be seen as like being partnered with a very schmegsy, very competitive person in society. Somebody that kind of has that Mars flavor, honestly, that people maybe want on a schmegdual level. So they want their house and their family and what seems like this values-oriented energy to seem like it is with like a very hot rod kind of person. So they really, really have it all, right? So somebody here has like the house and the stability, and they've probably built that up over the course of a relationship, and they feel like that's made them more schmegdually competitive, and it probably has. One of these people feels that. And another person has something to offer in terms of schmegsiness, like personality, wit, charisma, maybe body, something. And so they want it all here between the two, but they want to cut things off. So this is like, it's kind of parasitic energy. They want to cut things like away and then try to piece this together. But it's based on superficial energy. And I think you were the person bringing the value to this other relationship. So it's kind of like, I'm seeing Rapunzel's hair that gets like cut, when it was all blonde and glowy. So it gets cut and then it kind of just like dies. And it no longer has that kind of quality, because I feel like you were the zhuzh. And I feel like you need to know that. You need to see that here. So when you turn and you exit and the fresh air hits your lungs, You can go find somebody that actually does really truly believe in your values, because there should be a certain amount of self-discipline there. To achieve your values, a lot of times that's the case. And there's another thing that I want to say here is like in terms of people, quote unquote, like not being happy in these relationships. Like one of the first things that like my therapist would always go over is like, well, let's do a values check. Like, let's see if some of your values haven't changed, because a lot of times if you are a values driven person, then whenever you're not living up to your values, like in your daily life, that's when you start to feel miserable. That's when you start to feel like, and so it's how can we bring certain things back in where you're connected with those values and you feel like you're living those values and you don't feel like you're a hypocrite or, all of those things. But this other person that's very Mars driven, they're selfish. So I feel like this is somebody who like feels bored. They need a certain amount of drama. They don't feel like the attention's on them. Like that's when they start to feel like they're unhappy. And it's not the same thing, because this person really only values themselves. This is a very selfish person. It's just really insidious because they use our social fabric as a mask in order to get away with and profit from their own selfishness. And they make it seem like they have Venus values, but it's just kind of, I'm hearing it's a tactic of like this parasitic kind of energy in order to feed off of a proper host. It can't get a proper host unless it sort of pretends to have the values that the host has. That host energy being a Venus-driven person who has values and therefore produces value or will produce value or showing all the signs of that, right? So this is kind of a wake-up call energy for everybody involved. There is you in this situation. I think you're waking up first and you're exiting this dream, because this was a dream, but this was always a nightmare is what I'm hearing. You thought it was a dream originally, but then I'm hearing like the thunder crashing and this turned into a nightmare. But the seeds here were poisoned from the beginning. And I think this is a part of what you're kind of pulling apart for yourself, is realizing the seeds really were always poisoned. You thought this was one thing because you were being encouraged to think this was one thing. And you had also bought in. I don't think you bought in as much as like these other people. You kind of knew that you needed this other bit that had to resonate with you. And I think that it does actually resonate with you. This like house in the suburbs thing that I'm seeing, like there is a part of that you do actually naturally want for yourself. So it didn't feel like superimposed. Like there's an authenticity there, I think, with you as well. You wanted the stability and all of that, and I think you did want to be appreciated by your friends and family, but you did want to actually be skillful at something and bring value to the table. You didn't just want it at any and all costs. You know what I'm saying? And you weren't only focused on the adulation and the status. You were focused on the total package of, I want to contribute to my family, to my community. Yes, of course I want to be seen for that as well, but I also want to bring something of value to the table. This other person just does not share that. And so it's this low Mars energy, and it's lustful and it's greed and it's desperation of trying to pair up with somebody that they feel like can give them what they didn't have before. Whether that's being able to attract a certain level of a partner that seems, that society thinks is attractive. And for some of these people, I heard they wanted to be surrounded by a pack of golden retrievers, like really good, positive, like happy-go-lucky people. But there's somebody here who, again, because they don't have good social skills, their friends always like end up leaving them because this person's selfish. Go back and rewatch the beginning of this reading. All the things that I said about how this person approaches friendship, and all of it's from a very using. So of course people leave them. So having a family, somebody here, again, they view this family dynamic thing as the end all be all, because they want to birth children into the world and they want to get their hooks into somebody, right? Because like with family and children, because of the roles, remember the roles, society is going to enforce those roles. If you leave, or if you try to stand up for yourself, and standing up for yourself, this person's going to say that's being selfish. But really, you do have a sense of self, and that self should be honored in your family and in your friendships. But this person is selfish, but they're going to project that out onto you. If you ask for any little thing, if you're like, this life does not represent me, my needs are not being met, this person's like, gosh, you're so selfish. You have to be never endingly self-sacrificial. You have to continually sacrifice yourself on the altar of this sham of a life that I forced you into. And if you don't do that, you are selfish and you are this and you are that. And they've got another cloak that they can throw on you to convince at least some people in society that you're not living up to your standards. When in reality, it's been this person the whole time. And they've been the poison fruit. And this person, it's going to take a lot for this person to heal. And this person should cry every day. when they look at you with the level of remorse that they should have for what they've done in this situation, because they weren't thinking about you at all. They weren't if there are children involved in this situation, those were just pawns in their game, because they don't look at children from a selfless lens of like, well, you know, a child is going to need this and a child's going to need that. They're like, ooh, more like hooks and levers that I can pull on in order to try and control my life and my circumstances and my surroundings, because at the heart of this person is a very insecure person who feels like people won't choose them. And you know what? People won't. And this person needs that mirrored back at them so that they can take accountability for who and how they are in social relationships and actually make those changes and become a healthy person. They need to go on that inner journey. This person, I'm seeing the hermit in my mind, like this person needs to hermit. They need to sort themselves out. They need to alone. Like this person truly needs to be alone. And if they're not doing that, I mean, I think this is the type of person I think probably has children very young, but again, it's because they wouldn't know how to do it otherwise. They need that. And it's hard to look at, but it's the truth, you know? And this is the kind of person that would be like, how dare you? Like, I love my family and I love this and I love that. This person, I don't doubt it. It's just that when this person says love, because there's so much selfishness in their energy, they really do mean something different than what you and I would think of as love, but they kind of bank on us not knowing that and kind of just superimposing what we mean. But this love inherently has a certain amount of cooperative, like pro-social cooperative energy, self-discipline energy, and there's a certain amount of being willing to be selfless in the right conditions, but you're overly selfless with the wrong kind of person. And that's what I feel like you're learning in this situation, in this kind of dynamic here. So that was a long reading. But I feel like that snapshot of like, here's where everything was kind of going wrong and I don't understand. And I really thought that these people were my friends. It's because they wear a really good mask. And I do think that these people are maybe pleasant people to be around. They could have really good things about their personality. I think these people can be very social and they can do things for other people. But it's just when it bumps up against their selfishness and everything that I described at the beginning of this, if you don't get this thing that your culture and your family has reinforced in you, then you will not be happy. That makes these people justify their incredibly low selfish actions, when actually, if they were more selfless and if they were more self-disciplined, they would actually build happier, more fulfilled lives. That's the paradox here. That is the key here. But it's also the one thing that these people haven't been able to discover because they're so externally focused. And I think you're not as far like bought into this. And I think you have your inner light on. And I think you do have values that align with this. I think this is part of why you were targeted in this situation. But I think learning to walk away from this, because your values are not represented here. Your values are actually used against you in this situation. Yeah, it's incredibly deceptive and treacherous, and yeah, what you want is just not on offer here. And as a matter of fact, it's going to make you sicker and sicker. It's going to keep weakening you because it's not what it's kind of claiming to be. So I feel like this was meant to be a wake-up call for everybody involved. And try not to concern yourself too much with these two people. I think they'll probably, who knows? I mean, this will eventually kind of crash and burn. At the very least, it's going to be very volatile and very, it's competitive, like beneath the surface. It's not going to be truly happy, even if these people can manage to hodgepodge together some kind of, because again, these are people that trade on image in order to achieve status in society and opportunities and everything else. So they're going to fight probably hard to maintain their image, personal image, as well as personal image first. Because if this being together in this partnership kind of gets exposed as being the gross thing that it is, so they'll really fight hard to try and keep that under wraps. That might involve a big move, getting a new group of friends. But if that's incredibly damaging to one of these people's like social status and reputation, I feel like this will dissolve. If they feel like it's better for their individual images, or like, again, they trade on that image thing, then that's when this will kind of break up. But I feel like they'll try to keep the image together, but just don't concern yourself with it, because you know how hollow it is. And I do think you've got a real life ahead of you that you can build with a real person who really does share your values and brings their own value to the table. And I just feel like once you get into a relationship with that person, I don't care what you felt like was on offer here, you're going to see it for the sham that it was. It's going to feel so good to you that you're going to probably realize that you were in, at the very least, an emotionally abusive situation, if not other kinds, because there's incredible volatility here. and resentment, and that's only going to grow and build when the promise that all these people were promised ends up falling through, because they don't have the inner resources. None of these people, the longer they stay in something like this, the more they're going to lose, the healthy coping skills that they do have, but they're not going to have that inner light on to be able to navigate this. I feel like you don't want to be anywhere near this if this, like, it's going to be like a bomb went off, is what I'm hearing, like when this finally does dissolve, because you've got two selfish people here that are going to resent each other. These people are probably going to blame each other. Sooner rather than later, I heard. Even if they don't show it on the outside, it's like, well, I wouldn't be seen in this way because I think they got together by some underhanded means. I think that involves you. Well, I wouldn't be here. Like, at the very least, they feel that about the other person. People wouldn't think this of me if it weren't for you. I would have gotten this opportunity if it weren't for you. Well, we wouldn't have had to move here if it weren't for you, because I wouldn't have disgraced myself, like, in front of God and everybody else, like where I once was. Like, there's a lot to be, but these people need to be pointing the finger back at themselves. Like, what was it that they bought into that made them think that this was, like, acceptable? Or, so there's karma. There's going to be karma that's playing out here. And I do think it'll get rocky. Like, I'm picturing 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake. That kind of like, like they're really going to disagree about where to go forward, because they each have their own selfish drives, and they're both only navigating from their selfish drives. And how they want to be seen in the world. And these are not cooperative people. So I feel like this person had in you somebody that was very cooperative. And honestly, this person got away with a lot. So they were avoiding their karma by partnering with you, because I think they avoided a lot of their karma that's going to come through social rejection, is what I'm hearing. Or it should, like, I'm just picturing a lot of people gather around this person pointing the finger like, ew, no. And this person needs that because they don't treat people well, right? But I think in you, they got away with it because they were partnered with you, and because you were doing all the work to keep this, like, put together, that people gave this person the benefit of the doubt. And they really shouldn't, because this person hurts people. And you don't want this person making connections with people. They're gonna, not when they're in their unhealed state. This person really does need to go hermit mode. They need to search for the light within. They really, really do. But they've lost that with you. So if you think that, oh, their relationship's going to go the same way that yours did, it absolutely will not, because both of these people are way more selfish than you. Way more. And they're not cooperative. And they will make the concessions probably in the beginning of their marriage or of their relationship here, because they feel like that suits their image and their status. And I think they may have a lot to cover up here. So, and they know that they need to kind of do that in order to strategically position themselves in society, which is the only thing they know how to kind of trade on. But once that phase is over and something is still not working, then that's when they're really going to start to kind of sweat here. And that's when they're going to realize what it is that they've done. And that's the karma that's coming through. But you don't need to concern yourself about that. I feel like you're just being encouraged to walk away. Deal very heavily in the truth of both of these people, of the two-facedness of this connection, of the delusion that you are staying in. This is going to lead to wisdom over time, and build your life in reality according to your values, and be very protective of yourself, because I think one thing that you learned here is that you had something that one of these people wanted. They saw the value in you before you did, and it's a hard way of showing that to you, because I feel like they exploited you in some way, or they tried to. They tried to, like, exploit out that value and to take it from you, or to attach to it in you. They wanted to be seen with you in society. They wanted to benefit from what you were doing in society. So it's meant to wake you up to the value that you bring to the table here. So, all right, that's what I have for you. If that resonated, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye, guys.